class. Dr. Winters here. We're going to spend the next few minutes discussing our aging population, how older adults have been viewed in previous generations and in other parts of the world, as well as the impact the aging population may have on future generations to come. I hope you'll enjoy this video. Let's take some time and look at how older adults have been viewed throughout history. During the time of Confucius, the older a person became, the more respect they were given. On the other hand, ancient Egyptians feared old age. The Egyptians are well known for their desires to remain young. They experimented with many potions and schemes to maintain their youth and not grow old. The Greeks had differing philosophies regarding the worth of older adults in society. Plato, on one hand, felt that the older generation made the best leaders in society, whereas Aristotle did not want older adults to play any role in government whatsoever. The Romans did not want to be bothered with the old or sick. In many cases, these people were to be killed as a way to rid society of their problems. During medieval times, the youth believed they were superior to the older generation. In the Holy Bible, we are taught to love and respect elders. Well, how do you feel about the older generation in the church today? Pause this video and take a moment to read the quote and think about how you feel regarding these wonderful people. We've now taken a look at how older adults have been viewed throughout history, as well as how we view them in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Let's take a look at what they have added to our current society. The older adults of today have contributed a great deal to our country and made it what it is today. They may have fought in wars, immigrated to the United States where they started new businesses which created wealth and contributed to our economy. They may have fought for the civil rights of those who were being discriminated against due to their sex, religion, ethnicity, etc. These are people such as your grandparents or older relatives. Without these people, our nation would be nothing like it is today. We owe a debt of gratitude to each of them who sacrificed so we can enjoy the many things we do today. We've discussed how older adults have been viewed throughout history as well as what they have contributed to today's society. Now let's look at some of the characteristics of older adults in today's society. We'll begin by looking at how they are categorized by age. The first category of older adults are the young old. These people range in ages from 65 to 74. The next category are the old, who range from 75 to 84. And the final category, the oldest old, are 85 or more years old. It's important to realize that age may not only be determined by the number of years that a person lives. Functional age is not about how old you are, but about how you feel and function. This may include how a person functions physically, psychologically, and socially. We probably know people in their low 60s that function as if they were in their 80s, as well as people in their 80s who act like they are in their 60s. Now let's look at the topic of life expectancy versus lifespan. Life expectancy is an estimation of how long people will live. For example, it's expected that as a man I will live to be approximately 77.1 years of age. We'll look at other life expectancies in a few minutes. Lifespan, on the other hand, is how long the human body could live. The current lifespan is 122 years. Jeanne Calment of France lived from 1875 to 1997, a total of 122 years. There have been others who claim to live longer than 122 years, yet are not considered the longest living human beings because they were unable to document their birth dates. One Indonesian man claims to have lived for more than 140 years. Take a moment and look at this chart, which includes life expectancies for the different ethnic groups in 2012, as well as projected life expectancies in 2030. What are some of the things that you notice about these? Life expectancy over time has increased due to better control of infectious disease, improved health technology, decreased infant and child mortality, improved sanitation, and improved living conditions. Note that the gap is widening between white people and black people, yet is narrowing between the sexes. It is believed that the declining life expectancy of black people is due to heart disease, cancer, homicide, diabetes, and perinatal conditions. There is also concern that the obesity epidemic in today's children may actually decrease life expectancy for the younger generation. This means that they would be expected to live fewer years than their parents. The top 5 leading causes of death include diseases of the heart, malignant neoplasms or cancer, chronic lower respiratory disease such as COPD, cerebrovascular disease such as strokes, as well as Alzheimer's disease. It's interesting to note that currently cardiovascular disease is the #1 killer in the United States, but its rates are declining, whereas the rates of cancer are actually climbing. At some point in time, cancer may surpass cardiovascular disease as the #1 cause of death. Let's look now at the leading causes of chronic illness, otherwise known as morbidity. Notice that the leading causes of chronic illness or morbidity are disorders that can have a significant impact on independence and quality of life of an older person. These include arthritis, high blood pressure, hearing impairments, heart conditions such as heart failure, as well as visual impairments, including cataracts. The overwhelming majority of older adults have at least one chronic illness that may affect their quality of life. It is important to know that older minorities tend to be in worse health than do Caucasian white older adults. Part of this is due to lower educational levels as well as a lack of accessible health care. It is also important to understand that when older adults get sick, they recover much slower than do their younger counterparts, as well as they tend to develop more complications as a result of their illness. This leads us to the concept of compression of morbidity. Compression of morbidity suggests that if the onset of serious illness and decline could be delayed or compressed into a few years prior to death, people could live a long life and enjoy a healthy functional state for most of their lives. In this diagram, we see individual number 1 has good health up until the age of 60, at which time he develops a chronic illness that decreases his quality of life. He then goes on to live 20 more years but suffers from bad health. In contrast, individual number 2 has good health up until the age of 75, at which time he develops a chronic illness that decreases his quality of life. He then goes on to live only 5 more years in bad health. Individual number 1 has 60 years of quality life, whereas individual number 2 has 75 years of good health. I've heard multiple older adults state that they hope to live a healthy life and then die peacefully in their sleep, not having to suffer from any chronic illness. So what are some ways that we can attempt to compress morbidity? Most of them are common sense and are things we could do to try to maintain our health whether we are young or old. Good nutrition is key to good health. Studies have shown that those societies who live the longest tend to eat a plant-based diet. Maintaining an active lifestyle also helps to compress morbidity. This doesn't necessarily mean you have to hit the gym daily, but you should work frequent activity into your daily life. Adequate sleep is important in maintaining good health. Everyone will be different regarding the amount of sleep they need, but for the most part, 79 hours is recommended. Preventive medical care is also key in maintaining good health and attempting to compress morbidity. Older adults should make sure they are up to date on their vaccines, as well as have recommended screening tests such as colonoscopies or mammograms for their specific ages and sexes. One other way to attempt to compress morbidity is to do all that we can to maintain our cognitive function. Constant learning and frequent social interaction can help with this. Of an interesting note, studies have demonstrated that the aggressive prevention of cardiovascular disease leads to a decreased likelihood of developing dementia and other problems that will interfere with our cognition. One of the most important things a person can do in an attempt to compress morbidity is to avoid smoking of any kind and the excessive use of alcohol. These two things in and of themselves can play a big part in the avoidance of chronic disease, which in turn affects our morbidity. Let's look now at some other trends affecting older adults in society. The first of these is that, as we noted before, women tend to live longer than men. They also tend to marry older men, which means that women are more likely to be widowed and living alone. We also know that married people have a lower mortality rate than those who are not married. Let's now look at income in the older adults. Social Security was set up by the U.S. government to supplement the income of older adults. It is a benefit check paid to retired workers of a specific minimum age, disabled workers of any age, and spouses and minor children of those workers. It is intended to supplement other sources of income in retirement. Most older people rely on Social Security for more than 50% of their income, and greater than 10% of older adults fall below the poverty level. Once again, we see that women and minority groups tend to have less income than white males. Well, what does that mean? It means that many older adults and minority groups struggle to make ends meet financially. It is true that many older adults in the United States own their own homes, but in many instances don't have the cash flow they need in order to pay for their daily expenses as well as food. This is what we would call being asset rich but cash poor. You may be asking yourself, if many adults are asset rich and cash poor, then how can they pay their high medical expenses? Well, the answer is through a government program called Medicare. Medicare is a government health insurance that all older adults may receive once they are eligible for Social Security. Medicare covers hospital expenses and physician services, as well as limited home health or nursing home services. Medicare also pays for many preventive services for older adults. People may also choose to purchase other types of Medicare, which may cover things such as prescription services, etc. Some older adults choose to purchase supplemental health insurance as well as long-term care insurance. Most insurance agencies actually determine their payment schedules based on what Medicare pays for. It is important to understand that Medicare will only pay for a very short stay in a nursing home. Once they have reached their limits, older adults will need to rely on Medicaid, self-pay, or long-term care insurance. This can become very expensive and may actually eat up all of their assets. Let's talk now about the generation of older adults referred to as the baby boomers. The baby boomers were born between 1946 and 1964. They began entering their senior years in 2011 and will continue until 2030. The baby boomers have several defined characteristics that set them apart from other groups of older adults. Most have children, but this generation's low birth rate means they will have fewer biologic children to assist them in old age. They are better educated, with approximately 50% having attended or graduated from college. Their household incomes tend to be higher due to dual income families. Most also tend to own their own homes. They dress more casually than previous generations of older adults. They enjoy high-tech products and spend a great deal of time on computers, smartphones, etc. Unfortunately, they have less leisure time and report feeling stressed at the end of the day. These people are also the inventors of the fitness movement, and many live very active lives. At times, the baby boomer generation has been referred to as a demographic tidal wave. As you can imagine, a large group of individuals with the characteristics of the baby boomers may make a great impact on society as they age. These people are well informed and want to play a highly active role in their healthcare. With their technological skills, they may know as much regarding health as some of their healthcare providers. They will unlikely be satisfied with the state of nursing homes in our current society and will look for other ways to be cared for. In addition to this, these people are more likely to come from blended families, which can lead to difficulties in providing care to step-parents and step-grandparents. It will be interesting to see what impact this generation has on society in the future. Well, this ends our presentation on the aging experience and population. Please don't hesitate to contact me if you have any questions regarding the information in this video.